Christianity, as most people know, descends from Judaism, but Islam, the third major Abrahamic religion, descends from Judaism or Christianity. The answer to this question isn't simple if that's what you're looking for. I guess the short answer would be both and neither at the same time. It seems to depend on what you consider Judaism and Christianity to be. To understand the answer more fully, we need to dive a bit more into the history of Judaism and Christianity in the centuries leading up to the origin of Islam in the 7th century CE. Second Temple Judaism, the term for ancient Judaism during the Second Temple period, was far less homogeneous than it is today. Second Temple Judaism contained many diverse sects. The Pharisees, who believed in the afterlife and the oral Torah, comprised the majority of the population. The Sadducees, who unlike the Pharisees denied the afterlife and the oral Torah, comprised a significant elite group. Another much smaller sect were the mystical Essenes, who had a dualistic worldview and isolated themselves. Other smaller sects existed and originated as well, such as the Zealots, who originated in 6 CE, whose main motive was to kick the Romans out. One other smaller sect at first were the Christians. Jesus from Nazareth, or Yeshua, was a Jewish man preaching to Jews simply trying to reform Judaism. The first Christians were all Jews, just like Jesus. In modern Hebrew and Arabic, the term for Christians is Notzri, or Nasri, a remnant term for the group of Jews who followed Jesus of Nazareth, or Nazareth. Christianity at first was no more than Judaism with the addition of Jesus as the long-awaited Messiah. The Christians were probably most influenced by the Pharisees, the majority of the population, and maybe the Essenes, who had a dualistic worldview, and some practiced baptism. Saul of Tarsus, or Paulus, a Pharisee who later came to accept Jesus, started preaching the new sect for the Gentiles, or non-Jews. He claimed that certain Jewish acts were no longer necessary with the coming of Jesus, and thus practices such as circumcision or keeping the Shabbat were unnecessary. This heavily attracted Gentiles en masse, all the goods of Judaism without its peculiarities. The thing is, most Jews rejected Jesus, and eventually Gentiles outnumbered the original Jewish Christians, and mainstream Christianity started to drift from mainstream Judaism. But when did they split? One important event was the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans in 70 CE. To the Christians, this was interpreted as a sign that they were the God's new chosen people. However, it wasn't so simple. The divergence took centuries. At the end of the 1st century, Christian and Jewish sects are still considered one religious family, with some Christians and Jews still continually interacting in the 4th century CE. Christianity at first was very diverse. There were many different beliefs regarding how different they were from the original Judaism. On one end, you had the Docetists, who claimed that Jesus was only spirit, not a man. Some Docetists, the Marcionites, even claimed that the God of the New Testament was different from that of the Old Testament. On the other extreme, you still had Jewish Christians, who celebrated all the Jewish holidays, interacted with them, and were just like typical Jews, except that they accepted Jesus as the only man, but as the Messiah. There were also the Gnostics, who believed in a dualistic worldview, like the Essenes. But the view that eventually became mainstream in Christianity and became official in the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, termed Nicene Christianity, is a view somewhere in the middle. That Jesus, simplified, was of course both fully God and fully man. Scholars such as Bart Ehrman, after had termed this view the Proto-Orthodox view, when talked about before the Council of Nicaea. The point is, early Christianity was extremely diverse, with some quote-unquote Christians being closer to Jews than to other Christians. What happened to Judaism? Well, after the Second Temple was destroyed, most of the Second Temple Jewish sects dwindled and became extinct. But the Pharisees, the largest Jewish sect, survived and became completely mainstream. The Pharisees, accepting the oral Torah, laws passed down orally, in the following centuries wrote down the oral Torah and the Talmud, the Mishnah and the Gemara. Rabbinic Judaism was born. Thus, scholars often talk about a modern Judaism and Christianity as two twins in a womb, analogous to the biblical twins of Jacob and Esau, battling in the womb and later in life. Second Temple Judaism had many sects, but two surviving ones that ended up dominating their own spheres of influence and becoming mainstream were Nicene Christianity and Rabbinic Judaism. One added the New Testament, the other the Talmud, while the Judeo-Christian religious family spread around the Middle East and the Roman Empire. Flash forward to the 6th century CE, when Muhammad was born. Arabia was some insignificant desert, always in the periphery of glorious civilization close by. Here, it was a complete melting pot. The Judeo-Christian religion was spreading in Arabia around this time, Jews and Christians alike. But these Jews and Christians aren't necessarily Rabbinic Jews or Nicene Christians. While they were around too, many other Jewish Christian sects flourished. One such group were the Ebionites, a Jewish Christian sect who now are extinct, of course. The Ebionites accepted Jesus as a prophet and as a Messiah, but unlike the Nicene Christians, denied that he is God or anything like a trinity. They still, like typical Jews, followed Jewish law. They prohibited pork and circumcised their sons. Sounds a lot like Islam, doesn't it? As monotheism became very appealing to the pagans, it spread, and a lot of Arab pagans converted to Judaism and Christianity. To pagans, it was probably still viewed as one complex religious family. But some Arabs, who found monotheism and the Abrahamic religions appealing, wanted something even more appealing, something more local and less foreign. That's when Muhammad showed up. Muhammad was apparently very familiar with Jews and Christians of different kinds, so no wonder Islam seems to draw a lot of influence from both. But while Jewish Christian sects such as the Ebionites or the Nazarenes are long extinct, being shunned by both mainstream Christians and Jews, it seems that their legacy survives in Islam. According to Islam, Muhammad started receiving revelations in 610 CE and then began preaching for the local Arabs to submit, become Muslims, to God or Allah, and become true believers. The earlier Muslims probably didn't really see themselves as a new religion. What even is the line between two variants of one religion and two separate religions? They simply called themselves, Muslims, submitters in Arabic, or believers. Islam is simply a fixed version of the Judeo-Christian religion. Thus, the third main Abrahamic religion was born, and as it says in the Quran, Surah 3, verse 67, Abraham was neither a Jew nor a Christian. He submitted in all uprightness and was not a polytheist.